Sometimes darkness in a public place is not optimum. Ouch! Sometimes just the right amount of darkness is exactly what you need. I'm okay. I've got more blood.
When I was a little boy in pastor school, nobody was happy. I had high blood pressure. And I started crying. Daddy told me to meet him in front of the liquor store.
I'm Jim Holland, and today we're going to talk about 5 reasons why darkness in a church isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Darkness!
Now, let me start off by saying this. This will not apply to probably most churches, especially if you've got like an old Gothic cathedral, a traditional church, or maybe you rent a space that you're not really allowed to alter. Or maybe you have people who just aren't that open to changes in color, lighting, and paint. But if your church meets in some type of modern building that can be altered, maybe you are a young church and you can see ahead that you're going to need more space, and in the future you might be moving into a larger building where you can decorate. And it's always easier to make kind of radical changes when you move into a new place. It may seem counterintuitive, I wear my sunglasses at night, but a dark space can actually make the room feel much brighter. I visited a church where everything in the sanctuary was beige. Literally, everything was beige, and the beige worship band and the beige pastor just sort of got washed out in the beige wall at the back of the beige stage. Beige, 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 beige. And it all blended into this monochromatic beige nightmare where everything got lost in the same color. It made the room look huge. It made it hard to know on what to focus. And the video screens were on beige walls, so unless the graphics had like shocking color and contrast, they were kind of hard to see. This church interior definitely needed some color, or lack of color. Here we go, 5 reasons why some darkness inside your church building can help your church vibe. 1. A dark ceiling in a room with a low ceiling can actually create the illusion that the room is much taller than it actually is. In a way, because it's not reflecting light, the ceiling seems to disappear, and it makes the room feel more open. Number 2. In a large meeting space with a high ceiling, especially one that's white and has fluorescent lights, the space can feel ridiculously large, and the intimacy level of that room is kind of lost. In a big open feeling room like that, you can get the idea that something might swoop down out of the sky and attack your head. But a dark ceiling or a black ceiling can create an optical illusion that the room really isn't quite as tall as one might think, and it also creates a feeling of intimacy. And light-colored ceilings, with all of those horrible fluorescent light tubes that every church uses, just feels awful. 3. A dark ceiling has an interesting effect in terms of focus. With light walls and a dark ceiling, it causes your eyes to focus exactly where you want it to go, which is on the stage or the pulpit or where the worship band is or even the baptistry. It forces people's eyes to look forward, not up. 4. If you paint the walls around your video screens a dark color, then it really makes what's being projected on the screen pop. It's visibly brighter and it's got more contrast, and thus it's easier for people to read and see, and it looks better. 5. Let's talk about that stage. Regardless of a person's skin tone, a light background will cause things to wash out. When lights hit that light background, it just reflects, and it reflects back onto the speaker, back up onto the worship team, and everything just kind of goes white or beige. But you see, when you make that back wall a dark color, whether it's paint or whether it's a dark or black curtain, that absorbs the light. And so there's not so much reflection, and the person at the front of the stage or the worship band, when hit with normal stage lights, well, they stand out a whole lot more. Even if the lighting isn't great. First off, if you can, paint your ceiling. It doesn't have to be black. It can be a charcoal gray. It can be something, hey, it can be a chocolate brown. The idea is just to get light to stop reflecting down from the actual ceiling. Paint your ductwork, paint electrical conduit, paint anything that's up there black. Then get some pendant lights or some kind of lights that hang down away from the ceiling to use as your standard illumination in your auditorium. This keeps light from reflecting off the actual ceiling, and it reinforces the optical illusion that there's not really a ceiling. Now, when you paint your ceiling a dark color, paint about 2 feet down the walls all the way around the room. This reinforces the effect that the ceiling is somewhere up there, but you can't exactly tell where. This will really affect the mood and feel of your room. It makes it feel more intimate, it makes it feel more safe, and it doesn't feel like you're just in a big white box. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go all Halloween or all goth and paint everything in your room black. I've seen churches where everything in the room was painted black and they had some colorful lights in certain places. It was really hard to find a seat. Too much darkness really can be distracting.
What? I said, is that you?
I can't hear you! It's too dark in here!
And I've heard people say, nobody wants to come visit a dark church.
No one will come any nearer than that. In the night. In the dark.
Perhaps the people in your church are not ready for the walls and the interior of your sanctuary to be painted black. One church I know got really sneaky with it, and on the sides of the stage and the back of the stage, they didn't paint it black. They painted it the darkest green you could get before it became black. And you would swear it was black until you went up and put your eyeball right next to it, and then you could see that it was actually green. In one church I worked at, the youth room had white suspended ceiling tiles. We just took all the tiles out, painted the grid black, and then put in black ceiling tiles. It had the same effect, and we didn't really have to do any painting. Now, I know some people who will say, black paint in a church? No, that's the color of evil. Oddly, pastors, priests, choir members, they all wear robes that are black. I know I'm going to get in trouble for pointing that out. Oh, and if you have a small space, paint the ceiling black and hang Christmas lights all over the ceiling. Creates a cool effect. Let's recap. A dark ceiling can make a small room feel bigger. A dark ceiling can make a tall space feel smaller and more intimate. A dark ceiling can point people's eyes to exactly where you want them to go. Dark walls around your video screens will make the image on the screens look a lot better. And having a dark background to your stage can have multiple positive effects. So this may only affect 0.8% of you, but if you have the opportunity and you have the chance and you have the space, I encourage you, try out some dark paint, some dark curtains. Sure, it's not 16th century stained glass church pew kind of cool, but it's relevant to the times. And nobody said you gotta have a Gothic stone building for God to be present. I am asking you, leave a comment. I'd love to hear about your building on the inside, and is it beige? Does it need some color? or lack of color? Leave a comment if you've added some dark colors to the interior of your church and let me know how that worked out. Doing battle with the dark forces of this world, well, that is something we learned in pastor school. But the visual effects of having some dark colors inside your church sanctuary, well, we never got that.